And this has a lot of the same elements as meditation. But usually, when we talk about meditation, it's a formal thing. Somebody's doing something in a particular way at a particular time in a particular area, and it's very formal practice. Because in a way, this is meditation, but it's something that we take with us. So it becomes informal. It becomes a part of us. It becomes a way for us to be more deliberate, specific with our attention so that it's much less likely to be manipulated by other people. And it's much more likely to focus on what you want and how you want your life to evolve and transpire. Now, this is a happening in the central command of your brain. So it's going to involve a lot of the prefrontal cortex. Everything that we're talking about can be done in meditation, but what we're talking about is throughout the day, when you're waiting at a stoplight, when you're going down a grocery store aisle, when you're taking a test, in my matrix voice, when you're paying your taxes. We want attention to be specific and deliberate. And, we call it the attention workout here, but it's a practice, right? It's a practice of attention that we take with us at all times. So selecting attention is picking something. It's here we call it pick a target. Is there something visual that you want to pay attention to? Is there a type of breathing that you want to pay attention to? Is there a sensation that you want to pay attention to? Is there something visual that you want to pay attention to? And we'll go in and give lots of examples of ways that we can engage our mind in a purposeful and deliberate way that is a lot like we're describing here. We call them tricks of attention. So we pick a trick of attention, focus on the trick of attention, and we just continue to do that throughout the day so that our mind is constantly being focused at will. So we call this the rep, but it's just one way of looking at it. I wouldn't expect everybody to look at it this way, but it's coming back. We're constantly coming back to this practice, especially when you first begin. You're going to forget, and then you remember, and then you forget, and then you remember, and then you forget, and then you remember. You could look at that as a repetition. It's one repetition of coming back to the moment, being engaged in the moment, and then, of course, for whatever reason, we go back to a default mode, but then we remember again. And that moment that we remembered, then that was a forgetting and a remember repetition. And that is a part of the process. That's baked into the cake. It's how we do this. And in a very technical way, we can actually increase the gray matter in our brain from being more deliberate with it, from being more specific with it. Here's kind of an interesting catch is that when we focus our mind as we're recommending here in this practice, we'll talk more about specifically how we do that, but that's what we're talking about, being selective with our attention that uses metabolic energy. And then you're like, well, now wait a second. So when my mind goes to default and I'm in habits, I'm saving energy. That's why my brain is doing it. It wants to go back to habit to save energy, but deliberate energy, deliberate attention costs energy. So what that doesn't make sense. That looks like a contradiction. Well, yeah, but not really. And here's why. When your mind is a leaf at the mercy of the wind, when your attention isn't selective, we're doing other things that wastes energy. We're scrolling, we're getting angry, we're not paying attention and taking care of our body the way that we need to. We're not interacting with relationships as authentically as we could be. We're not showing up as well as we could be for the other person. And so in the long run, that costs us energy. So yeah, the brain goes back to a default mode, but that default mode could be very unhealthy and it could be costing us more metabolic energy in the long run than if we were to just use our metabolic energy more deliberately and focus our attention. So if we just make up imaginary bits of data, Being selective with our attention costs 10 bits of energy. I meant bits of energy. So it costs us 10 units of energy to be selective with our attention. Well, it costs us 5 units of energy to be a leaf at the mercy of the wind. And that's what we were talking about. That's what looks like a contradiction because the default mode requires less brain energy. But what we're doing in default mode costs us 10,000 bits of energy because it's just wasteful. And we'll talk more about those ways that we waste energy when our attention isn't selected. And that's what this is all about. This is about learning to be deliberate, intentional, and select the direction of your mind so that you can select what is coming in and what isn't. Does that make sense? So, in a way, you begin to craft the world around you based on the available materials. You will never be able to see and feel and taste and touch and interact with all of the available materials all at once. It's impossible. So, rather, what we do is we're very selective about the materials and the bits of information that are coming through. And that's what this practice is all about. And that's also why this practice is an act of conscious creation. We're consciously choosing what populates our bubble of perception, and then over time, that crafts your entire life. And then before you know it, everything is a reflection of where you've been putting your mind deliberately, intentionally, and purposefully, and you're not being commodified as much, if at all. If everybody lived the way that I do, I think that Western civilization would crumble in a sense because we just wouldn't be spending as much money. We wouldn't be focusing on the same things. So financially, that would be a real problem, I think, for the world financially if suddenly everybody stopped. Well, that's not going to happen. But slowly, hopefully, the human species can start to transition from walking around aimlessly looking for, one habit after another, engaged in one closed feedback loop after another, or we can grow with self awareness. I choose the latter. It just sounds far more appealing. All right, let's see what else we got in our PowerPoint. Who doesn't want more gray matter, right? That's great. So sovereignty isn't a word that I use often, but we could associate the word sovereignty to freedom. And the freedom to what? The freedom to create, the freedom to basically tend to the garden of your mind. You get to choose where the flowers are, where the trees are, where the bushes are in the garden of your mind. And focus will very likely, I don't know about never, but the more you practice, the less likely that your focus and your attention is of being in a default process. But this isn't going to happen on its own. It happens through practice. And that's what we're here for. So that's what we're here. We're here to help you with that practice. We're here to share our own practice and give ways and ideas and point towards mechanisms that will help a person to do this, to grow and to be selective with their attention. Because the noise isn't going to stop. It's going to increase. The world that we live in is getting noisier, it's getting faster, it's moving quicker and quicker and quicker. And I don't think that trend is going to change anytime soon. So we can't just expect the world around us to change. We have to change how we're interacting with the world around us. And as a final note, when we're being selective with our attention, meaning that we're choosing what's coming through that RAS, that reticular system. We're able to be more specific, more deliberate with what we want to come through. Well, what comes out will also be a reflection of what comes in. And then before you know it, you look around 10, 15 years later, and you're like, I'm working where I want to work. I have the friends and family and support systems that I want to have, whatever that looks like for you, because everybody's different. I'm doing the activities I enjoy the most. I'm really engaging and living my life. I'm not just some passive observer, just kind of hoping for the best. No, I'm going through life wide awake, with my energy engaged, my heart and energy open, ready to receive the unknown, and I'm able to evolve. I'm able to learn. I'm able to grow, and I'm able to embrace aspects that I was unaware of before and use that as a catalyst for change as well. Because there's always something happening below the threshold of your active recognition. And so you could look at this as all the ingredients necessary for the law of attraction, for you to live the life that you want, for you to have the things that you want, for you to be able to have the relationships and people in your life that you want. And it's all done by deliberate, specific, selected attention. Okay? We're going to keep talking about this. We have to. So this isn't a topic that we just, oh, here's some theory and now go chew on it for the next 20 years. No, this is a key aspect of the practice, of the doing. Where is my mind? Do I even know? Have I placed it? Is my attention selected? Have I put it there on purpose? So, my guess is if you're still watching this, your attention is on this video, and it has been purposefully, intentionally, and I invite you to take that with you throughout the day. Ask yourself, where is your mind? Is this where you want it to be? Is it drifting towards future and past? Is it manifesting imaginary scenarios without your permission? How much of your mind is occurring without your express volition, your deliberate, intentional, and willful selection? Well, the more you do this practice, the more that will be a positive thing. The more you do this practice, the more you'll be able to answer, yes, I know where my mind is. I have selected my direction of attention. I'm going to proceed with that throughout my day. And when I forget, that's a repetition. I'll come back eventually. In the beginning of the practice, sometimes you forget and you come back a day later, or you come back a week later. Eventually, in the practice, you may only forget your deliberate, specific attention where you've selected to put your mind. You may not forget at all. Then again, maybe you only forget once for just a moment. It just depends, and everybody's different. And this is a lifetime practice. Okay, well, thanks for hanging out, and we'll be back with another topic soon. Hopefully, you can put this together into a nice, clear picture of what the four directions of attention is, why it's beneficial, maybe even essential, depending. All right, well, thanks a lot. Bye.